Hi guys, this is Sally with Disable Advantage. My new series on CRPS tips this winter while I'm unable to do our walk videos. I am still going for walks, but when I go for walks, I'm wearing between 6 and 7 layers of clothing on my face alone, and then also the rest of me. And so not only are winter walks more exercise intensive for me to do, so it's a little bit harder for me to breathe. I have to focus more on that, less on talking. But it's also really hard for you to hear me through all my layers, and wearing all those layers really presses down on my face. And so when I try to add the extra effort of activating my jaw muscles to talk, it just causes more flares for me. So not going to be able to do walk and talk videos in the winter. So instead, I'm going to try doing videos about CRPS and how I manage various aspects of my life. And technically, it's Saturday. This is something I might do. The tip I'm about to share is something I normally do on Mondays or Sundays, but I've got a lot of activities that I want to do this weekend for the business, and some of them may trickle into the week. I've also got a client coming up this week, and so I need to make sure that my planner is ready and set to go. And so since the upcoming week is currently mostly blank, I figured this would be a good time to share this tip. This is something that one of my clients and I talked about this week, is the concept of using a planner. And it's definitely not a new concept, right? So we've been getting told by teachers for years to use a planner because it helps us organize our life better. But most of the time when someone uses a planner, it's for work or school. It's not a planner of your entire life. And some people do that already. And some people, especially with really busy schedules, practically live on their phone that has their calendar, or this will most certainly date me, but when I was growing up, I watched a lot of movies that had the phrase, I basically live on my BlackBerry. And most of the time that's been thought of for people who are in high-powered jobs or are juggling a lot of responsibilities. But I have found, and in full honesty, I started using a planner for my business. But once I started using the planner for my business, I also started using it to manage my entire life, and it got easier. So I want to talk about that today. When you live with chronic illness, you're basically working a job all the time. You're trying to take care of yourself. You're trying to manage your disability or your chronic illness if it's not yet to the disability point. If you have children, you have their responsibilities as well that you're taking care of. If you have a pet or a service animal, you're also taking care of their responsibilities. If you help out around the house, that's another responsibility. And it's really easy to lose track of all of these things. When you add on brain fog, and the more that you do, the worse your pain gets, and so the worse the brain fog gets. It gets harder and harder to keep track of things. And then suddenly you reach a point invariably in your week or your month where your brain just hits a wall and you experience absolute overwhelm. Maybe you cry, maybe you scream, maybe you cuss at the wrong person. Maybe you get irrationally upset over something really small. But it inevitably happens, and it tends to happen to us worse because worse or more frequent. And the problem is that then people who don't understand call us overdramatic, too sensitive, criticize us for not handling our pain better. And the reason it happens to us more frequently is because, unbeknownst to a lot of the people in our lives, we are constantly under massive amounts of stress that other people can't see, and massive barriers. And if we don't have a good way to keep track of all of the things that we need to do, all of the things that we want to do, and we don't have a good way to prioritize what's actually important versus what is a fleeting idea or could actually maybe wait till tomorrow, we tend to overload ourselves easier. And I have found that using a planner to help manage not just my business, but my business and other categories of my life helps decrease the number of overload or overwhelm times that I have, helps me remember things better. And even if I don't, like, if I'm having a day where I feel like I'm barely skating by, I can look at my planner and go, oh, okay, I do have an idea of what's going on. I remember now. This is what I was going to focus on today. And because I picked that day, it's by doing it at the beginning of the week, I kind of help myself not panic later on. So it's kind of like meal prepping, but for your brain and your flares and your activity load. And personally, I really hate meal prepping because for me, spending 3 to 4 hours making a bunch of ingredients is exhausting and flare triggering. It works great for some with chronic illness. It just doesn't work well for me. But where it does work well is with planning out my week. And especially if I do it on a Monday or I do it on a weekend where I am a little bit calmer, I'm a little bit more relaxed, and I can cast my brain out and go, okay, these are the things I have to do, these are the things I want to do, and these are the things that like would be nice to get done. And then I write them all down. It's a roadmap. It's a suggestion list. And it's also a way for me to keep track of things that I get done in a day, so that when I look back on my day and I think, oh gosh, I feel like such a failure. I didn't do anything today. The pain got in the way. Whatever feelings I'm experiencing, I can look back at that particular day and go, oh, I did do stuff. Okay, cool. Good job. Or, sometimes I get really frustrated with the day and I just circle stuff and draw an arrow and point it to the other day and I just kick it to the other day. And having that written down, having that physical list helps with the brain fog, because then I know I'm going to move it to Tuesday or Wednesday, and I can look back at my planner and go, okay, this is what I thought. And I also frequently have times where there's a notes section in my planner that I use, and I'll write like literal brain fog notes to myself of like, hey, self, I made this decision and this is why I made this decision. And so I can look back at my planner and go, okay, this is how we got there. Cool. And it helps. So I use, and this is not being paid for by anybody, this is just a planner that I started using a few years ago, and I happen to really like it. I like, most planners irritate me because they don't give you enough space to write down all the stuff that's in my brain. And the days are really small, or everything's really simplified, or it's like, I personally hate the planners that devote an entire page to a day, because then it's overwhelming having that much space to fill. But likewise, the planners that are super small are also overwhelming, because it's like, this is a tiny box. How can I accomplish anything of importance in this tiny little box? And so hopefully you're listening to this and might be going, oh my gosh, that's why planners bother me. So this is a planner that I primarily bought for my business. So probably 80 to 90% of this planner goes into maintaining my business and me keeping track of all of my business stuff. But as a business owner with a disability and a service dog, how all of the pieces of my life fit together, and being a self-employed business owner and someone who does all of the things in the business. I do the training, the teaching, the marketing, the advertising, the accounting, all of the things. So all of these pieces fit together. And if I don't manage my disability, or I don't manage my service dog's care, then it invariably throws my business a little bit out of whack. So what I do is, has categories up at the top, 7 categories. It has a main goal. So you write out the categories of your life, and then you pick one most important thing you want to get done that week. There's a section for extra notes and calls. I mainly use this as my brain fog vomit corner, where I write extra notes to myself. Expenses, I use to write down specific to business expenses, so that when I'm doing my bookkeeping later, I can look back at my planner for weird expenses that don't make a ton of sense in my spreadsheet and get extra clarity on those. And then there's each individual day has a little check mark area and then a line for the activity. And then underneath it, it has time slots. So things that have to happen at certain times, or ideally need to happen at certain times. One thing that also really helps with, and I know there are people who are going to listen to this and are going to get frustrated, but hear me out. Trying to keep yourself to a routine helps with your sanity. And it helps you get out of bed, get out of your chair, get off the couch. Because the problem is with CRPS that for most of us, standing hurts, sitting hurts, laying hurts, walking hurts, not walking hurts, right? So the best way to manage the absurdity of CRPS is to sit some and get up and move some. Rest some, walk some. If you just rest the entire day, you can accidentally make your pain worse without intending to. Now, some days you absolutely have to stay in bed, and this is where it gets hard. Some days you're just going to feel that you have to stay in bed, and that's the right call. And other days you can get up and follow your routine. And the days where I even have to stay in bed, I still get up and follow a basic routine for taking care of my service dog. And it's like that for 7 days of the week. And then in the corner is a little reminder calendar, so you can look out and see the big picture. And what I do is at the beginning of each week, I pick out 7 colors because I'm a color-oriented person. So red, they're in the wrong pen sleeves, but teal, orange, green, blue, bright blue, and black. Makes 7. Okay. And I used to have more colorful pens, but I like using colorful pens so much to take all my research and education notes for the business that colored pens dry out really quickly around here. So I usually set out my categories for my business, and then I have a category for our house, and those, I am the keeper of organization in our house. And so when I keep a list of house responsibilities, it's often both my responsibilities and the responsibilities of the other people living in this house. So I'm the one who reminds my husband, hey, we need to Dremel Austin's claws. We need to shave Austin's paws. This is the week to vacuum, etc. Things like that. And then there's an Austin column, of course. When I was training Austin, though, I actually had just one disabled advantage category because I only had one client when I was training Austin. So I had less client work that I was doing at that time. And I was able to have the house section was over here, and I had an Austin training at home and then an Austin training in public category. So I could keep track of the responsibilities I needed to be working on with him at home. And then also the activities I needed to be sure we were doing in public, which was super helpful because especially in that beginning stage, when you're managing a lot of different skills that you're trying to teach your service dog, it can get easy to forget one. And so having 2 different places to write out a summary of those was tremendously helpful. And then if there was ever a day where we were stuck inside or I wasn't feeling very well, it gave me, I had my training binder, but I also had my planner. So it gave me an additional place where I could go and look at it and go, okay, I need something to do with him today so that he gets something, but I, for the life of me, cannot remember what we need to do this week. Because I have brain fog. I have severe CRPS. These moments do happen to me as well, but the planner is how I stay on top of things. And so I could go to the planner and go, okay, so balance disc and games. I can do that. Or, 10 minutes of learning to lay by a chair. I can probably do that. And it would give me ideas. And then I always have a miscellaneous category for random errands and doctors I need to see and things like that. Then I have a friends and family category because I don't want to forget about the people who are important to me. If I need to remember someone's birthday or if I'm going to have a friend hangout day, I want to make sure I don't accidentally book a client the same day. This week, one of my friends is coming over. We're going to make a bunch of Christmas truffles for everybody as our Christmas present that we give our friends and family. And then I also have a list of fun things that I do. And that seems silly, but bear with me. I love my job. I love my job so much that I genuinely enjoy reading dog training books and learning new things and trying new things and watching dog training videos and working on my website or perfecting a demo video or something. And so I get so wrapped up in that I forget to take time for myself. I forget to have fun and to just read a book that is not about dog training. And so when I include it in my planner, it becomes more of a responsibility and less of a trivial thing. And so I'm more likely to incorporate fun activities into my week that help refuel my soul and help refuel my brain capacity for running a business and working with clients, and helps prevent burnout. So it's really important for me, at least, to include that in my planner. So things for me are I like to play Assassin's Creed on my computer. That helps me relieve stress, and I also get to ride a horse virtually, which I thoroughly enjoy. I also try to read for fun. I'm currently reading 4 different books. I hop around from book to book depending on what mood I'm in. And one of the books I've been reading since I was 15, because it's a incredibly dense horse encyclopedia of care and training from like the 18th century, or no, 1800s. I always confuse those. From the 1800s, and the way it's written is super, super dense. And so I can only read it in tiny little chunks. So it's been reading it for a very long time, basically. Let's see. It's gonna be warm this week, so I'd like to walk to our favorite spot a few times this week. That would be nice. Okay. So then I come back to, once I've got all my categories, I write down all of the priorities for this week that I need to get done for the house or Austin, or working with specific things for clients, specific things for Maine Disabled Advantage. So I'm working on developing a new test score system. I'm adding videos to, there's a part of my course website that's exclusive for clients that allows them to watch task videos to learn from, and obedience videos and general health care and other things like that. And I'm currently working on updating the task video pages. Miscellaneous admin things. And then I can go through and I usually pick like 2 or 3 business things to focus on each day, and 1 to 2 house things, 3 or 4 Austin things, and 1 fun thing. And so by the end of the day, I have a decent number of things that need to get done, but it's a mix. It's not solid business. It's not solid fun. It's business and house and dog and reminders to myself. So no exercising because I triple X'd my hamstring. And this helps me feel more balanced and more with it. And so this is a completed category list. And sometimes the categories change from week to week. It really just depends on, what's going on with me. But using a planner has dramatically altered my ability to manage life with a chronic illness. I'm more on top of everything that needs to get done. And it helps me be able to be a business owner. It helps me run my own business because I'm not having to just keep in my head all of the things. They're in my head, but they're also written down on a paper planner. They're also written down on dry erase calendars. They're also written down in other places. And so that repetition also of seeing it in 3 different places helps it stick with my brain better. And, the planner is by my desk. The dry erase calendars are in the training room. And so it also means that various rooms in the house, I get a reminder of, oh, I need to do that today. And that helps me stay on track. And when it helps me stay on track, it means that I have fewer instances where I feel guilty or like a burden or like I failed, because I know that I tried and I remembered to get stuff done. And so I don't have that guilty episode. And if I wasn't able to get stuff done, when I cross through it, when I circle it and move it to the next day or the next week, or highlight it and say, do this next month, that's me accepting that I am not a superhero, that I am not invincible, and that I still have a disability, and it's okay. Because I made an effort, it's written down somewhere, I can come back to it later. My business stuff gets prioritized over most other things, because I am a business owner. That's how that rolls. But there are days where the CRPS overrides the business, and that's okay, because I am a small business owner with a disability. It's going to happen. I hope this idea helps someone who needed to hear it. Maybe looking into a planner for yourself will help you figure out, maybe you're not a business owner, but maybe you are going through training your own service dog, or maybe you're a new parent, or maybe you've been a parent for a while, but you're new to CRPS with parenting, and you need to keep track of your kids' schedules, but you also need to keep track of you and what's important to you and what is going to help refuel you and what's also going to be self-care for you. And this is not where planners are thought of for managing a chronic illness. But it should be, because managing a chronic illness is a high-stakes, intense job. We have meltdowns. We have burnouts. We're under enormous stress, and we're expected to just slap a smile on, be happy all the time, have our ducks in a row, and advocate for ourselves, and still live life the way everybody else is. Very hard not to compare ourselves to other people. But having a planner, having a way to organize your thoughts, and having a way to organize your thoughts in multiple different places so that there's repetition for the brain fog, helps tremendously. I hope this video has been helpful or informative. Please give me feedback in the comment section if this type of video is something you want to continue seeing over the winter in lieu of the walk videos. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tips on CRPS life, dog training, and an inside look into what it's like working with Disabled Advantage. Thank you for watching.